Warning, this video may not be suitable for all viewers. This content is aimed toward adults who are not easily triggered over harmless fiction and know how to separate harmless fiction from reality. We are not responsible for you getting triggered. You have been warned. Ada.
Hey, what's up everyone? It is I, the Video Game Hunter, and welcome to my review. And today, I am going to review a game called DYSTHANASIA, a game that somehow got banned off the Japanese digital store called DLSITE. Now, for those who are not too familiar with this store, I do not blame you because it is a store that doesn't really get that great of a push to the Western audience, which is, probably for the best, especially with all the sexual content that this store has to offer, ranging from video games, books, videos, art, and audio like SMR. And as someone who's from the Western side of the world, there are definitely some filthy Karens who will go out of the way and try and get other companies like payment processors to try and shut them down. But don't worry, DLSITE is already 5 steps ahead. So why did this game DYSTHANASIA get banned from DLSITE despite the fact having sexual content across the website? Well, if I can make an educated guess, the developer, Madoku Kobo, who I believe also went by as 237, is known for making very gory games like Demonphobia and a cancer game called Xenophobia. So, despite DLSITE having sexual content across the site, this again is a Japanese company, and let's just say the Japanese are not too thrilled with extreme violence like blood or gore in their media. Now sure, you're gonna find some with certain medias like films, anime, and manga, but when it comes to video games, it's kinda like a big no-no, unless it's like a visual novel like Corpse Party. So DYSTHANASIA is a very simple survival horror game, and you play as an unknown character who wakes up in the morgue wearing nothing but a small hospital blanket and a tag below her feet that says 396. Now, why was she in the morgue, and what is the main objective of the game? Well, the game doesn't really tell you if you play it normally, going from point A to point B. What the game really wants you to do is to explore every section of the game by picking up notes in journals along the way. So because of this, I'm going to let my viewers, which is you by the way, to figure out what the story is really about, if you choose to decide to play this game. Now there is something that I want to point out, and that is some players didn't like the fact that there isn't any gallery that keeps track of all the notes in journals that you find throughout this game, which is understandable, especially for those who have trouble remembering things that they just read such moments ago, or they just forget later on in the game. So the best solution I can come up with is for those who have trouble remembering things is to take a screenshot and keep the photos in a folder, so later on you can come back and put the pieces of the story together. Hey, so jumping in here real quick to let you guys know that on Steam, DYSTHANASIA got a new patch where they just released a gallery section of all the notes and journals that you can collect throughout the whole game. So now, me recommending you guys to screenshot each journal and notes are now irrelevant. There's no need for you to do that anymore. So, that being said, let's go and continue on the review. The gameplay, for the most part, is just a basic stealth game. It's not going to be a high quality game like Metal Gear Solid or maybe games like Hitman. So don't expect too much, especially when this game is made by a small indie team. Now, I'm not saying this game won't be challenging. There will definitely be some struggling moments, specifically when it comes to boss fights. If you really could call it a boss fight. And I am saying this because you don't really fight monsters in this game. Instead, you run and hide. Kind of like those survival horror games like Clock Tower or those live stream games. Now, running and hiding is not your only kind of defense in this game. You do in fact have items that you could come across in the game that can distract the enemy or restore your health and stamina. Now, despite having all kinds of items that can help you to distract the enemy, I actually barely use them. Like, really, the only time I ever used a defensive item is when I accidentally hit the wrong button, or when I was in the last section of the game where I used a blood pack to defend myself from the floating monster that was coming after me. The only reason I was able to go through the whole game without using any items is because if you just take your time and do not rush things, you can beat this game without any issues. Okay, maybe you may face some issues in the game, but one issue that I did in fact face really shouldn't have been an issue, and the reason why it became one is because I didn't fully understand my character's psychic ability, so I ended up getting lost quite a few times in this game. You see, the main protagonist has a psychic ability that allows you to detect monsters from a certain distance, highlighting important objects and traces of puddle of blood. To use her ability, simply press down on the wheel on your mouse, and as long as you have that button down, her ability will remain on. Now that doesn't mean you should leave that ability on at all times, because while you're using that ability, your character will start walking very slowly, and you can't interact with any items or even crouch, which is a huge bummer to be honest, because there will be times where you have to crawl into an air vent, and once you reach the other side, you can't use your psychic abilities to see if there's any enemies close by or not. So you better have some good listening ears before you exit out that air vent. Now, this isn't the only time where you can't use your psychic abilities either. You also can't use it right away soon after you let go of the button, because there is in fact a short cooldown. And there is also a mutated radio jammer that will prevent you from using your psychic abilities, but those things can be easily taken out just by simply interacting with it. Okay, so let's talk about the abilities that I mentioned that I didn't fully understand, so when you play the game, you don't face the same issue as I did. And that ability is the one that allows you to see the traces of blood. You see, through the majority of the game, I thought those blood puddles were just letting me know that this is the path that enemies likes to walk through. And it wasn't until I got to the last section of the game, when you're almost in the pitch black room maze, that I finally figured out that it was actually telling me where I need to go. I don't know if I missed a book or some kind of paper that tells you about these puddles of blood, but I could have saved so much time if I had known about this a lot sooner. Especially when I was in that pitch black room or early in the game when I was going through all these conveyor belts. You won't believe how much time I wasted in these two sections of the game. Alright, so let's finally talk about the main selling point of this game that the developer is apparently very well known for, and that is the very brutal death scenes. So, to start things off, there are basically two different types of death scenes. You have the sexual animation ending and the brutally gore animation. Let's talk about the sexual ending first, because to be honest, it isn't really all that disturbing. Despite the fact if this was any other eroge game that I played in the past with the same sexual content ending, it probably would have been a lot more disturbing because they put a lot more effort into it, like the animation and the quality of the sound effects. Here, it was clearly not the developer's main focus. It felt like a unfinished and they just wanted to put it in the game just to make sure this game is in fact a 18+ eroge game. I wish I could just show you guys some examples, what I'm talking about, but this video is in fact on YouTube, and showing any uncensored sexual content material is obviously a huge no-no here. So you're going to have to take my word for this and just check out the material out yourself. Now the gore animation, on the other hand, can get pretty brutal. Despite the fact the model of the character may look like a plastic doll, but the details of her death would definitely have some people turning their heads the other way. I'll even go as far to say some of her deaths will put Mortal Kombat to shame, even though some of the deaths do have some similarities.
Kung Lao wins.
It just feels like that DYSTHANASIA just takes it a step further. I honestly don't know if I can show any of her deaths because how brutal they are without being demonetized, or even go as far to get my video even age restricted. However, if I manage to show some deaths around this point in the video, I probably found a way around YouTube's policy. So I do want to talk about one last thing about this game, and that is some of the unlockable costumes. Now, I usually don't have anything against unlockable costumes, especially when you actually earn them just by playing the game and not buying it like some other companies will have you do with oversaturated with paid DLCs. I'm looking at you, Koei Tecmo! That being said, there are two unlockable costumes in this game. You can unlock one by simply beating the game, and the other way is by collecting all the stuffed animals that are hidden throughout the game. Not too difficult, I was able to accomplish both of these objectives really easily. What I have an issue though is, depending on what version of the game you are playing, the censored or the uncensored version, and yes, this will affect which costumes you get to unlock. In the uncensored version, you can unlock a school swimsuit or a skimpy bikini. In the censored version of the game, you can unlock a school uniform or a gothic maid dress. And to be completely honest, I want the gothic maid dress. However, like I mentioned, that is only available in the censored version. And if I'm playing the censored version, I end up losing seeing all the gruesome death scenes, which again is the main selling point of the game. So I'm hoping, maybe in the future uncensored patch update, or hell, I'll even settle with a mod, I would love to have the gothic maid dress while also being able to see all the gruesome death scenes in the game. And there you have it, folks. That was DYSTHANASIA. And to give you guys my final thoughts, it's a pretty average game. The main selling point to the game is the gruesome death scenes, and the gameplay wise, it's just an average stealth game where you just go from point A to point B. Now, if you want to give this game a try and see all the gruesome death scenes, you can go and pick this game up on Steam, but you also gotta download the uncensored patch off of the publisher's website, which I will leave a link down below. So I can't recommend the game for the gameplay, but I can for those who want to see the fucked up shit. So, because of this, I'm going to give this game a 3 out of 5. So, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Video Game Hunter, and until next time, goodbye.